It is the hottest week of the summer. The asphalt outside is radiating heat, the air is heavy, and you finally walk through your front door to seek refuge. You step over to the thermostat on your wall. You push the temperature down to 68 degrees, and within seconds, cold air is rushing through your vents. From the front stage, this feels like a simple, isolated transaction. You ask for cold air, and your house provides it. It feels as if you are tapping into a localized, endless reservoir of power waiting right behind your drywall. But behind that drywall, there is no battery. Your air conditioner is hardwired directly to a network of wires and turbines that spans the continent, a machine where every component must move in perfect synchronization, the alternating current electrical grid. The modern grid contains a physical contradiction. Exactly when millions of humans demand the absolute most power to stay cool, the extreme ambient heat physically degrades the heavy machinery required to deliver it. The hotter it gets outside, the harder the system is forced to work, precisely as its physical capacity to do that work drops. This is a thermal power plant, the source of most of our electricity. The grid has almost zero storage capacity. It's a real-time delivery system. When your air conditioner kicks on, a plant like this, hundreds of miles away, must instantly generate that exact millisecond of electricity. Most of that real-time power comes from thermal plants, coal, natural gas, or nuclear. They operate on an ancient physical premise, burning fuel to boil water. This creates high-pressure steam, which spins a giant multi-ton turbine to create electricity. To keep that cycle running continuously, the hot steam must be cooled back down into liquid water so it can be boiled again. These plants achieve this by pulling in millions of gallons of cooling water from local rivers or lakes. During a severe, prolonged heat wave, the temperature of those rivers and lakes rises significantly. When the cooling water entering the plant is already warm, the plant's thermal efficiency plummets. It simply cannot cool the internal steam fast enough. Environmental regulations strictly cap how hot the water can be when the plant discharges it back into the wild to prevent boiling the local ecosystem. If the river is too hot to begin with, the plant has no choice but to physically throttle down its own operations. At the exact moment millions of thermostats are demanding maximum power, the power plants are physically choked by the ambient heat, forcing them to generate less electricity than they were designed to. This photo shows the high-voltage transmission network, the next major bottleneck. Once the power is generated, it must travel across these lines to reach the city limits. Pushing electrical current through a metal wire creates resistance, and that resistance creates internal heat. On a normal day, cool ambient air blows across the transmission lines, carrying that excess heat away and keeping the wires at a comfortable equilibrium. During a 105-degree afternoon, the sun beats down on the dark metal wires from the outside, while massive amounts of electricity bake them from the inside. When metal gets this hot, it physically elongates. A heavily loaded transmission line can sag several feet toward the earth. If a sagging line drops low enough to touch a tree branch, the electricity instantly arcs to the ground, creating an explosive short circuit. To prevent catastrophic wildfires, automated protection relays detect the fault instantly and sever the line from the grid. Electricity doesn't just stop and wait. The physical load that was traveling on the severed line instantly floods into neighboring parallel transmission lines, but those lines were already running hot. Suddenly burdened with a massive surge of extra current, they rapidly heat up, expand, sag, and trip offline. Rerouting power in extreme heat does not solve a supply shortage. It simply accelerates the physical collapse of the surrounding infrastructure. This is a distribution transformer, the final leg of the logistical journey. Its job is to step down the high voltage from the transmission lines into the safe 120 and 240 volts your house can actually use. Inside that sealed metal cylinder, heavy coils of copper wire wrapped in paper insulation generate a tremendous amount of internal heat. To survive this, the copper is submerged in a bath of highly refined mineral oil, which absorbs the heat and transfers it to the metal casing to be cooled by the outside air. Transformers rely on cool nighttime temperatures to recover, but severe heat waves bring abnormally warm nights. If the temperature at 2 a.m. is still 85 degrees, the mineral oil never cools down. Day after day, the transformer accumulates thermal debt. The hot oil essentially begins to bake the paper insulation wrapping the copper wires. Eventually, the degraded insulation fails, the bare copper touches, and the transformer violently short-circuits, failing in a loud shower of sparks. Your neighborhood blackout isn't always caused by a grid-wide shortage. It is often the result of a single physical choke point on your street, melting under the strain. This photo shows a grid control room, where operators monitor the failing physical limits of the total system on massive digital dashboards. They are watching the most critical metric in the entire system, the frequency. In North America, the electrical grid operates at exactly 60 Hz. This is the heartbeat of the machine, representing the synchronized spinning of multi-ton steel turbines in every power plant across the continent. This is the turbine that generates that frequency. If the demand for electricity exceeds the supply, it acts like physical drag on these spinning blades. The grid gets heavy and the frequency drops. If the frequency drops from 60 Hz to 59.8, the synchronized steel turbines will begin to vibrate violently. Left unchecked, they will physically tear themselves apart, destroying bespoke machinery and taking power plants offline for months. To prevent this, power plants have automated fail-safes that instantly disconnect them from the grid. But if one plant drops off, the system loses that supply. The grid becomes even heavier for the remaining plants, causing the next one to trip, then the next, resulting in a system collapse that could leave a continent in the dark for weeks. To prevent a total collapse that would leave the continent dark, grid operators use one final, brutal tool. If they cannot find any more supply, they instantly destroy the demand. They issue digital commands to automated substations to execute load shedding, often known as a rolling blackout. This is a highly coordinated, intentional amputation. By forcefully cutting the power to hundreds of thousands of homes, they remove the physical drag on the power plants. The frequency stabilizes, the massive spinning turbines relax, and the larger machine survives. The next time the power cuts out on a blistering July afternoon, you are feeling a massive physical machine hit its absolute thermal limit. You are experiencing the output of a system that chose to disconnect your house to save itself from being destroyed.